Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest was one of the owners. Hell, there was like 4 of them. And Sammy's brother, Fuji, right? He's in it too. He's like the MVP too. He's, cooks. They get the burgers, and he made that burger. I wanted to eat it. He appeared on the CNBC hit show, The Prophet. If you remember that with Marcus Lemonis, I'm sure all you guys do. Standard Burger, right? And awesome burgers. Marcus comes in, and we're going to talk to Sammy a lot about his journey through The Prophet. We're going to kind of run these things parallel. I know you guys love hearing about the production and what that means to the show, and what's valid and not valid, and what's real and not real. And then you want to know about the business too, right? Where did the business go? What was wrong with it? Why did they need Marcus? And Sammy's going to fill us all in on that. Sammy Lazoja, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast. Glad you're here.
Nick, my man, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. So let's take it through right from the beginning. Marcus says, or I read somewhere that you literally, and I did read an article, I forget what, Inc. magazine or something, that they asked Marcus about Standard Burger. And they said, if it wasn't for you and your doggedness and your persistence, right? It's that back to that entrepreneurial spirit. Guys like you don't give up. And tell us a little bit about how you finally got Marcus Lemonis and The Prophet show attention.
So initially I saw season 1, and a light bulb went off my head and said, man, if I want to go national, if I could get the attention of Marcus Lemonis and his team to come in and work with us, it's like pressing fast forward. He's going to be able to help me develop this. So it was like the ultimate ask to get him to do a show on us. So I initially started emailing him. First couple of emails were introductory emails. I wasn't really getting any feedback. I would send them emails on, hey, these are the specials we're having today. What do you think about this? Trying to pull his entrepreneurial spirit to kind of give me some feedback, because I know he likes to help people. And I knew if I said, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I would be able to, engage him in a conversation. And I would CC CNBC production teams on, and I would navigate the web and get as much email information as possible and addresses. Eventually, after like 160, 170 emails in, I shot him an elevator pitch, and the elevator pitch was like the one that got his attention and got his team's attention. I said, hey Marcus, if you want an amazing TV show, I got a story about 5 Staten Island guys. One's a playboy, one's a control freak, and one's a know-it-all. I said, our dynamic is incredible. We're trying to launch a business nationally. If it's not for the business, it's going to make amazing TV. So they got back to me. And they said, okay, we want to start auditioning. And so initially it was a one-on-one. Then I did a group audition, and then even the group audition, once you put us all together and we start talking and we're on camera and people interrupting with other people, and they saw the dynamic right away. Once they saw the dynamic, it interested them. Marcus was coming off of Brooklyn Burger. He didn't want to get into another fast food business. He didn't want to get into a meat business or a burger business. He was adamant about it. That I kind of felt that they were completely adamant about it. But I think we got across from that, hey, we are a business, we are serious, and the plus side is we're going to make really good TV. And he said, you know what, let's do it for October, season, I think it was season 3, episode 3 or something like that. And we started filming.
Awesome. That's a great story. We have a lot of fan emails and texts and IMs about the show and questions about the interactions, and they wanted to verify that email, that blast that you did. So I'm glad you did that. The next thing I want to talk about is, I know obviously you knew that Marcus was coming, but was your first interaction with Marcus when he walked into the restaurant and said, "Are you Sammy?"
Yeah. So, I spoke to Marcus's team. I knew that he was coming there that day. They didn't tell us what time he was coming. But my first interaction with Marcus is when he walked in and he looked at me and said, "Are you Sammy Lazoja?" I said, "Marcus," and we shook hands. That was the first time we met, and I had a real sense of a sense of responsibility to Marcus, and I still do to this day because I kind of brought him there. So me and Marcus's relationship was always a little bit tighter because I kind of I always felt in my head like I'm inviting this guy into my business. I took pride in that and responsibility to it, and that's why I was so hard on some of my partners, and I was hard on everybody because I said, guys, I wrote this guy 200 times. I have a huge responsibility. That's the way I felt, and that's how I kind of took it. So meeting Marcus was a big thing. As a kid, I didn't follow sports, right? That's not true. I didn't follow sports, but I followed who the CEO of American Express was. I followed who Marcus Lemonis was. I knew what you asked me what the Dow Jones is at today. I know what it is. S&P 500. These are things that that I like. These are things that I like. So when I met Marcus Lemonis, it was like meeting Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was a big deal for me, And think about it, now I got this Marcus here. I felt like I had a huge responsibility to him,
So before we get into what his assessment of the business was and the initial deal that he gives you guys, tell us what the business was going through at the time right before Marcus gets there. What were some of the challenges, Sammy?
So, we opened up in September. It was 2013, and we had an amazing reception. The community came out to us. We did some amazing sales. We were doing amazing. At one time, we did $30,000 a week, and I was like, me and my partner looking at each other like, we hit a grand slam here. This is amazing. We're rich. We're unbeatable. I was telling I own a electrical contracting business prior to this, and that was starting to be successful. And then this, I was like, we can't lose. We're geniuses. We're masters of the universe. Well, later on we figured out we weren't, but at the time we thought we were. And then Sandy hits. Sandy hits. A big storm hits and wipes out 3/4 of our clientele base in a coastal area of Staten Island. Standard Burgers, a restaurant, was roughly close to the coastal line in Staten Island. The restaurant didn't get any damage, but the area got damaged. Even during the period of Sandy, Standard Burger was almost like a beacon for the community because it was the only location that had power. The transformer for the utility was within the area, and our building had power when people didn't. And we gave the community burgers. We gave out food. We let people charge their cell phones. We opened up our doors to the community, used running water. Running water was a huge thing. So, but when after the economic fallout of Sandy in the area depressed the area, and it was a slow grind getting back to normal. A couple of months after Sandy, it started to gradually increase, but the business wasn't where we had it when we first opened, and now we were always striving for that. Even if we did a $10,000 a week, it wasn't good enough. If we did a $15,000 a week, it wasn't good enough. And in hindsight, I think about it now, and you know what? It would have been good enough if we trimmed a couple of things, but not knowing what the true value of the numbers should have been. So we were, the place wasn't decor wise, wasn't what we truly wanted, but we were limited with our resources. The restaurant needed some things to get fixed. We needed better management, but we were kind of humping along, So when we called in Marcus, we really were looking for, when we reached out to Marcus, I truly was looking for someone that was going to give us structure, someone that was going to give us the capital we needed to renovate the restaurant, to make it a brand that could go national. Because the concept that we had was kind of, it was done by 5 guys from Staten Island. It wasn't done by a design team. It wasn't done, with the resources that Marcus had, and that's kind of where we had. And, later on, finding out and going through the process with Marcus, that when he comes in, he doesn't come in with any of that. He comes in and he goes, "There's 5 of you? Yeah. Well, guess what? You're head of construction. You're head of figuring out the food. You're head of hiring people, and you're going to figure out how to run the place." And we're like, "Oh, shit." And he's like, "Yeah. And if you need help, you call me and I'll help you. But I'm not giving you a team for this. You guys are the team. There's 5 of you."
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I was blown away, and I said, "You know what? I respect that." I'm going to figure out what I have to do. And I kind of looked at him. I said, you don't have like a designer to help me out? He goes, Sam, and I'll never forget this. Probably the coolest thing anyone has ever said to me. You know, Sam, he goes, I want you to close your eyes and envision the burger place you dream of without a budget. I said, okay. He says, okay, build it. And he gave me a couple of guys to work with, some general contractors, and we built it.
Holy cow. That's amazing. That is amazing. So he comes in and you get together, you guys do the whole song and dance, you show him the place, you show him the menu, and he determines to jump ahead a little bit. You guys all put some skin in the game, $15K each from the partners. He's going to put $130K in initially, right? And he also wants your brother back in because he wasn't overly impressed with the burgers, and he found out some of the things around the drama with Fuji not being there anymore. And was that a partnership that everybody, they kind of skip over the fact the next thing you know, Fuji's cooking in the kitchen and Marcus, you guys are all eating the burgers going, these are great, but they missed any feedback from the partners really. Was there any struggles about Fuji being brought back in or?
So I don't think it was struggles because the partners, as partners, like obviously I wanted my brother there, and my partners had resistance against it initially, but you know, as time went by, without Fuji being there, I think everybody started noticing like we should have never let Fuji leave. We should have held on to him, or we should have did what we had to do to make sure that he was compensated to stay. You know, Fuji initially made all the recipes for the burgers. He also made the standard sauce. He made the angry mayo. You know, I think about it today. You go back to 2013, there was no angry mayo. There was no sriracha mayo spicing mix. You go to the shelf today,
it's everywhere.
They're full.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, Fuji as a creative chef is still, by the way, one of the most amazing creative chefs I know. He's a hidden gem. And, you know, and even opening the restaurant, I knew that. And, you know, my motives for opening the restaurant came out on the show. You know, I had, you know, remorse from being successful. I wanted to give my brother something, you know? So, you know, Fuji was an extremely important part of the restaurant. And I think my partners knew that. So there was no conflict on bringing him back. They're like, you know what, it makes sense. We have to redo a menu. The original menu was amazing. He was the one who did it. So if we have to make a new one, let's get him on board, you know?
So Marcus ends up investing like $400,000. He's rebranding it. He's, you know, literally, I think he shut down the place for a while and renovated. Are you guys in, is he controlling all of that, or is he working with you guys and feedback? Tell us a little bit about the interaction and negotiations as he's making all these changes. I know he was also big. He wanted more about milkshakes and he wanted fries and you had a big giant hot dog. Were these Marcus's ideas or were they a combination of everybody?
So, you know, he didn't really like push, like the hot dog. He said, we have a hot dog. We have to figure out how we're going to have a better hot dog than our competitors. Right. So he's like, who's our meat guy? Our meat guy was one of the best meat guys in New York City already, Pat LaFredo. So he's like, Marcus knew of Pat because
the meats. He's got all the
meat business prior.
Yeah, I know the name. Yeah.
So he said, let's have a meeting with Pat, and one of the episodes is on that, and let's look at what options are out there so that we could kind of smoke our competition. And you got to look at Marcus's background. You know, his background. He has NASCAR arenas. You know, he was thinking we do a jumbo hot dog and we sell it for $8-9. You know, and now it's like the signature dog. It's something cool. And honestly, it worked. It was a great idea. And, you know, we sold them, but the location of where we were in Staten Island made it difficult to get that into the consumer's hand because it's just a different, New York City is different. We like New York City hot dogs.
Yeah. Right. You're right. I got you.
Right. We like New Yorkers like New York City hot dogs. They don't like big jumbo hot dogs. Jumbo hot dogs across the whole country. A-okay. New York City, not going to fly.
I hear you.
You know?
So tell us about we got a lot of feedback about Joe. Like, why would, you know, the whole thing with him kind of getting in charge of the day to day, and then the whole girlfriend thing, and the girl that worked was getting fired. Her dad shows up, and that whole people were asking. It's just like I had one IM that came in that said. It's just like New Yorkers. They'll show you everything. There's nothing. They're not going to hide anything. They have the guy waiting for Joe in the parking lot kind of thing.
So
tell us about that.
The most bizarre thing is that all unfolded 100% truthfully.
Oh,
and it couldn't be scripted if we wanted it to be scripted that perfect. Initially Joe wanted the day-to-day role for the burger place. Joe put his heart and soul into that place, just like we all did. I had a small business. My partner Todd had a small business. Joe Cavello had a small business that we were operating day to day. Fuji was running the kitchen, and it made sense for Joe to operate that place because he didn't have a day-to-day small business that he had to operate, even though he's successful in his own right and he's involved in a bunch of other stuff, he didn't have anything at that moment that was day-to-day. So as a group, we said, hey, why not have one of our own? You know what I mean? And so we did it, and we all agreed upon it. And Marcus was like, Joe, you're going to be day-to-day. Fuji, you're going to run the kitchen. And guess what? The partners are going to be franchisors. They're not going to be franchise. They're not going to operate the restaurant. They're going to be investors.
Right.
And they're the franchisors of the corporate company, and this is a corporate store. So, Sammy's going to come in and may ask you some questions one day, and you need to have your figures good to go. You know what I mean? That's what you're getting paid, whatever the salary was, and same thing for Marcus. I might send you an email. I want to see what the figures are. I need a point man that's going to be able to do that. And we felt comfortable with Joe doing it. And Joe was very good at what he does. And, one of the issues obviously was he had a relationship with someone there. So, what happened that particular day is that on that particular day of shooting, I come back to the restaurant 3 or 4 weeks after it's in Joe's control and Fuji's control. The show is over. Everybody has their roles, and they're operating that restaurant. So I haven't been there in 3 weeks. So I come in 3 weeks, and I obviously operated that restaurant with the staff prior. I worked that place. I cleaned the restaurants. I cleaned the stoves every night. I know the personnel. I know the people there. And I walk in, and people are like, oh, my God, thank God you're here. Did you hear what happened? So-and-so lost her job. Now, I'm going, that's horrible news, because Marcus is going to be here today. And if he's here today, they're going to put it out on social media. We're going to get bum rushed with customers today. We need to have one of the girls that's been here for the longest on the register. She was the strongest register girl we knew. So in my arsenal of employees, I knew she was the strongest register girl, And so I get in that morning a little bit before shooting, and I find out that Joe let this girl go. Oh, man, all right, this is going to be a problem. Now Marcus comes, everybody comes, and I'm like, now they have you mic'd, Now I'm talking to Fuji, my brother, like, out of the cameras, you forget you're mic'd because you're mic'd for 8-9 hours. I'm talking to Fuji like, what the hell happened here? Why is this girl not in? Who fired her? What'd she do? And Fuji's like, I don't know. I think they were talking. Something happened, So Marcus obviously hears this. He has an earpiece. He hears our conversation. And now I'm pissed because we're friends. Obviously, we're close friends. But I'm pissed because now you're messing up our business. We put a lot into this. I put a lot into this. It's an annoying situation.
Yeah.
So I go to the front of the building to go talk to Joe and kind of confront him about this. Because we are friends and we are business associates. And I'm a very transparent guy. So if I have a problem with you, I'm the type of person that I will confront you and say, hey, this is an issue. And anybody listening to this, all entrepreneurs should act this way. If you have an issue, you have a problem, whether it's your partner, your business relationship, whatever it is, you need to be transparent and upfront. Because if you're not, it's a ticking time bomb. So I'm a true believer in that. So cameras or no cameras, I didn't give a shit. I said, hey, what happened here? We're going to have a line out the door, and I have a registered girl that doesn't know anything up front, Forget about the franchisee. Forget about the cameras. Business, what are we going to do? So now we start getting into a bit of an argument, and then Marcus jumps in, and he's like, what's going on here? not knowing in the background that the girl's father's calling the restaurant, flipping out, demanding to speak to Joe. No one could give Joe the phone because he's outside arguing with us in front of cameras.
Right.
So he's just like, F it, I'm coming there right now.
Oh, God.
So now me and Joe are fighting outside.
Yep.
Joe's screaming like a pit bull. By the way, I'm almost a Golden Glove boxer. That's why I'm laughing. If you see the video, and you see Joe moving the chair, and I'm laughing at him because I train every day, and we're friends, and he knows that. You know what I mean? So I'm giggling in the video when he's screaming. And the father pulls up. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm looking at Marcus, and I'm like, I just gave you the best show ever because this thing's about to blow up. And he was like, what do we do? So I try to calm the father down, and it all plays out, and it plays out truthfully. There's not
Marcus walked right up to the guy too, didn't he? Did Marcus
Yeah, and we're lucky Marcus was there to walk up to the guy because the guy had a respect value to Marcus. You know,
Yes.
it was a level of respect that, like, hey, this is what's going on here, you know.
Yeah.
And it was, honestly, it was great TV, but I think it was a part of the downfall of Standard Burger, you know.
So tell us about that. What went wrong? What went wrong with, if anything, with the Marcus deal? What went wrong with the additions or renovations or changes that were made? What happened to Standard Burger?
So look, we get through the show. We actually get back on track, and the burger place starts doing what it's supposed to do. You know, we get real management, and the burger place is moving along. And you know, we're doing weekly meetings to franchise the business, and we're developing books and even the franchise process. The same exact way that Marcus told us, like, you're doing construction, you're doing food. He did the same thing. He's like, you're writing the books on the franchise manuals. You're going to figure out how to develop and build this thing across the whole country. You know, you're going to figure out how we're going to employ and put in a training protocol for this. So me and my partners are holding meetings twice a week on what we're doing. And Marcus says, okay, I'm going to send you someone called Sam Lundy, and he's going to work with you guys on developing this and getting you guys to a franchise status, just like he did with the Simple Greek. Sam Lundy was the guy that was able to transition Simple Greek to a single restaurant to multiple restaurants.
Yep.
And he also had a cheeseburger background, so we were really comfortable with him, with Sam Lundy helping us out. The problem is that he was doing Simple Greek and Standard Burger at the same time, and his work was I think he didn't pay attention to us too much, you know, and we kind of fell to the sidelines because Simple Greek was getting more stuff done versus us as a team doing it. From what I understood, they had a full team behind them, where we were the team, you know.
Right. Yeah.
a little bit different. So eventually what happened is that Sam Lundy just kind of said, you know what, F it, I'm not doing this no more. He got into some arguments with some of our partners, not me, but some of our partnership. At this stage in the game, I was like, you know what, guys, I give my shares to my brother. You guys figure this out. And this, it's a shame because we won Best Burger in New York City.
Yeah, I saw that. Huh.
My business, my other core businesses started, you know, as an entrepreneur, I had other core businesses that were starting to really move and make waves in the industry. So I had to start like focusing on that. I couldn't do this anymore. And, you know, it kind of fell apart, you know, and then eventually Todd said, you know, Standard Burgers on Highland Boulevard in Staten Island is too big. I want to move it to Brooklyn. Does anybody want to be a part of it? You know, I said, listen, Todd, it's a 2,000 square foot space that you're going into. You know, my brother's not involved anymore. I'm barely involved anymore. You know, you still, you know, I had bad blood with Joe. You know, we're in a better place today, but I had bad blood with Joe. You know, I felt that he was getting paid $120K to be a manager. I didn't feel it was fair. Just back and forth. He did whatever it was, you know. So it kind of fell apart, you know. It kind of fell apart, and they went out to Brooklyn. And you know, from my understanding, I don't know if it's still open, but you know, that's where they are now.
When does Marcus get out? What was your last interaction with him, and when does he get out? Is he out before all this happens?
So I think when Sam Lundy got back to him, it was just like, you know, once people started arguing with Sam Lundy, and he was just like, what am I gonna do with these guys?
Yeah.
We can't have a successful business model with bad partners,
Yeah.
and Sam Lundy and the team were arguing, and I think that was the last bit of it. I still talk to Marcus. I still engage with him. We still talk. I had a baby recently. He said congratulations. We still talk, and I still look at Marcus as a great entrepreneur and a great mentor. But it just wasn't going to work out with the team that we had in place.
Was there anything about the show that wasn't real?
Anything about the show that wasn't
real? Like it was, let's redo this or redo that. Is there any kind of stage stuff?
Oh no, there's no staging. You're on. They're filming you. You have cameras on you, and they're picking and choosing what they're using, but you're being filmed 24/7. You have a camera guy just following you around. So
how long is Marcus actually there? Is he there all day?
He's there all day. 16 hours. 16 hours. He's there 16 hours.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. He's there all day. All day filming. When we would film, it was like a whole day event. 16 hours sometimes. No, but he was involved. I really think Standard Burger could have been a great national brand. I still do think it. At one point, I was putting deals together with a family that's in the show. Actually, the last show, I was putting a deal together to build one out in Edison. I was really pushing it, and to be honest with you, when I backed out of it, it just started deteriorating little by little because there was no driving force there to continue to push it. Todd held on to it as long as he could, but I was more focused. I never wanted a 1-2 location restaurant. I was more focused on a national brand.
Yeah. So tell our viewers and listeners, what are you up to today, Sammy? What's going on with your entrepreneurial spirit today, and where's your focus?
So, prior to Standard Burger, I had a core business as a licensed electrician. I put my tools on at 16 years old. Opened up Livewire Electric when I was 21 years old. By the time we did Standard Burger, I was about 23, and around that time we had a 40, 50-man shop. I was just starting to get successful and starting to understand, what success is and what money is, and kind of reinvested the money we made in electrical business into Standard Burger. Since Standard Burger and kind of as we divested in the burger business, we put our focus back, and I put my focus back into our core business as an electrical contractor, buying multifamily residential real estate, and moving at really putting all my focus into my core businesses. Today, Livewire Electric is the 5th largest electrical contractor in New York City. Wow. Employing around 150 men. Our real estate portfolio is around $20.5 million in excess. So, we pivoted. As entrepreneurs, that's something that you have to be able to do. You have to be able to pivot and really, focus on what you want. Your time is limited. I do remember having a side conversation with Marcus, and he was like, Sam, this franchise is going to take you 10 years to do. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be a 10-year haul to get 500-600 stores open across the nation. Are you ready for that? And I'm not going to lie. I sat back and I said, I know I'm going to need to be the driving factor to do this. And there's a lot of partners, and I don't know if that's gonna be enough time in my livelihood, to put in all this energy and all this energy into this concept, and a 10-year thing where I could kind of put into something else. I think if we had a smaller partnership, more equity, then it might have been something to go through. But as an entrepreneur, you need to understand your own value, and you need to know how to allocate your time, because your time is the most important thing.
That's excellent. I agree 100%. Well, listen, we appreciate your time today. We wish you all the best with Livewire, and for our people that are in the tri-state area and elsewhere, where do they go if they need an electrician? Livewire.com, or what are they?
Livewireelectric.com. Yes.
There you go.
Soon to be national. We have a national goal, so we'll be will be national, God willing, by 2025.
Nice. Well, Sam, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.